So I do not think that the churches have done a good job at all of explaining what has truly been going on in America. Okay, so I'm going to start here, and I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to try to tie this up, okay, so that people can truly see why why the things they've been doing to America, why they've been trying to change culture through gender, through any way they can. And it goes back to the Old Testament, okay? So like I had said, how, okay, slavery started in Egypt, which is in Africa, okay? And then look at Africa's history. And all through the Old Testament, God will protect any country, except they have to turn back to Him. They can't keep worshiping all their other gods. This is all through the Old Testament. All of this, what I'm saying, is going to prove, it should prove to you America's place in history, why your country's been protected, and why so many people have wanted to say you're a racist country. That's the biggest one they've wanted to push, because whether you're a black American, a brown American, a white American, you should be proud of America. And here's why. The thing is, nobody tells you that so the most newest country that's been formed, an independent country, is South Sudan. In 2011, they became independent, but they're struggling. They're having famines, no economic growth. The next newest was America. We're that new. And yet next to Africa, next to Russia, next to China, and Russia and China being major superpowers, America is a dot on the map. We're so small next to them. Yet we've been the biggest superpower. So do you think that was just all because of our own greatness? No. If you think that, then even with us being the big bullies in the world, which I'm going to explain why that's gone on, we should have been destroyed and squashed a long time ago. It's because God has protected this country, so nothing that comes against it will work when God is protecting your country. That is why there are so many people that have pushed the race shit. That is why there's so many people that have wanted to let these people from third world countries that eat cats and dogs, do everything against things you don't do, let them in here because they want it to change culture. It's important to recognize this because, again, in the Old Testament, God didn't have issue if they wanted to marry someone that was brown or black. The issue was culture. Because over and over again in the Old Testament, and the Israelites, what they are is they are the template. Yeah, they're the chosen people. But again, you don't have to be from that lineage to be chosen. That's all in the New Testament. It's if you believe in Jesus, then you are an heir to Abraham, which is important because you're a chosen person then, okay? But everybody gets so hung up on that. But what the Israelites were that God was using them for this is what happens. He was using them to say that stuff He said to them didn't just apply to them. It applied to every country. And yet I don't think churches do a good enough job of explaining, look, and I think it's because of being politically correct bullshit. But they don't say, like, look, okay, the first slavery, if we either believe in the Bible or we don't, okay? You don't get to play this game. But because of politics, I think that, churches, and because they want to get money, they want to act, because I heard some sermon, some guy, and I turned him off right away, that was saying, we have to separate the slavery with the blacks being brought here in modern time from the slavery that went on during that time. No, you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't. Because that's where slavery began. And God talks over and over again in the Old Testament. This is why He had the Israelites going and clearing out, like Canaan. There is a reason America put Israel back there, because it's part of prophecy. If you are a citizen of the United States, you should be proud of your country. They want you to hate it. We have had leaders get in place, some good, some bad. We have a bunch of people in Congress on the left and the right that, are doing the bidding that's not trying to help America. And then the military industrial complex, even though they've taken us into these endless wars, been bullies, what God sees is that he sees the American people still are the most Christian country. So I'm still going to protect them, even though they don't see why these people are trying to do this to you, why these people are calling you racist, why these people are trying to change everything about your land. And the reason they're doing it is because the only way they can ever destroy you is if God lifts protection. God doesn't have to do anything. Once he turns his back on you, that's what he's done with almost every country in the world. Some not so, but he has protected this tiny little country, America, that should in no way become a superpower. Should have been squashed a long time ago, because he was using America to fulfill prophecy, which was to put the Jews back in their land. Now, you can have your political arguments about you can't do. No, they've tried to have agreements there. It's a small bit of land. But that's after the Holocaust, that's why America did that. But it also goes back to the Puritans and the Pilgrims, even though our politicians and our news agencies who just work for wickedness because they want God to lift protection on us, because that's the only way you will be destroyed. So even though we've had bad actors leading us and getting us into a bunch of problems and all of this culture bullshit, God knows it, and God has still protected us. He gave us a warning on 9/11, though, because that was the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to America. And that was a warning telling you that you're starting to fall away. Because he gives warnings. It's in the Old Testament with other countries. He gives warnings. I'm going to walk away. And once I walk away, once I turn my back on you, you're done. You will be like Africa. You'll be like India. You'll be beheading your people, everything. You'll be barbaric. You won't be able to have any strong government or anything. But thankfully, Americans have not fallen away from the Christian values, so much so to where there's still more that, believe in Jesus, okay? So God still protected us. That is the only reason we became a superpower. You could say it's because of our intelligence or it's because of our technology. No, it's because of God. No country that's newest on the block can manage to get to a superpower status like that unless God is elevating you. And that's what these people hate. Do you realize that when the Brit elites who were controlling much of Africa and bringing the black people here when we were still the 13 colonies before we went to war, they were the ones doing that because we were under the crown then. We were the only country that stood up to that bullshit. So when they tell you that this is a racist country, you tell them to F off. Because do you want to know what the Brits did once we did go to war with them and said we're done? We don't want to be under the crown. We don't want to be under your filth. What you're doing, you're taxing and enslaving everyone and bringing slaves here. Do you want to know what they did then? Even though they sent all these black people from Africa here to be enslaved, chains on ships, it was all your British elite. They turned around during the war and told the black people in the colonies, they said, "If we'll give you your freedom if you come and fight for our side." That's how shitty it is. So if you're an American, you need to be damn proud of your country, because your country is playing a major role in prophecy and history. And everybody that wants to deny that fact, well, let's just say that they are either very misguided and stupid, or, well, they're from the synagogue of Satan.